Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining today's event, Top Supply Chain Disruptions and How to Minimize Risk. My name is Mark Segner, VP of Global Sales, and I am joined by Enrique Broom, our VP of North America Sales from Descartes Datamine. Before we begin, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. Following the web seminar, we will be distributing the slides as well as a recording of the event. And we also encourage you to ask any questions at any time using the Q&A function that can be found at the bottom of your screen. If we don't have time to cover all of your questions, we'll reach out to you individually and make sure that your questions get answered. And with that, I'd like to provide you with an overview of today's agenda. I will cover a brief overview of Descartes Systems Group and then review the many supply chain disruptions that are happening today and how they actually impact trade flows, along with a snapshot of some of the top disruptions we have seen recently. We will then discuss how Descartes Datamine and our global trade content solutions can help mitigate and overcome these risks, along with a live demo of our Datamine solution. We will then have time at the end for some of your questions. For those of you who are not familiar with Descartes, I'd like to give you an overview of who we are and what we do. Descartes is a leader in logistics technology with global reach, strong financials, a dedicated team with deep logistics domain experience, and a strong corporate commitment to innovation. We've been in business for over 3 decades with over 18,500 customers across the world using our solutions to improve the productivity, performance, and security of their logistics operations. We have over 1,300 employees with operations in 36 countries and a growing reseller network, so we're able to meet the scale inherent to global logistics while understanding local requirements. We currently operate at a run rate of more than $250 million in annual revenue, with more than 12 years of record financial performance that is unmatched by others in our industry. This financial strength enables us to focus on innovation by dedicating, on average, 18% of revenue to research and development. This is more than twice the average for our industry. Descartes supports the world's largest collaborative multimodal logistics community. Logistics is generally made up of multi-party processes that touch many different ecosystems of trading partners and resources in motion. Inventory, trucks, drivers and mobile personnel, conveyance assets, documents, and data. Descartes unites this community and helps it to operate more efficiently across all transportation modes. We have customers in 160 countries spanning over 50 industry verticals using Descartes solutions. To give you some sense of the scale and the efficiency in which we add value, we move more than 15 billion messages via the Descartes Global Logistics Network. 95% of trade is covered by our global trade content, and over 40 million pickup and delivery routes and resources are managed by our technology. So let's get started on discussing supply chain disruptions. What's different today? To start, today's supply chains are more global. They touch more systems, include more trading partners, and goods change hands more rapidly than ever before. With so many supply chains relying on multiple points of contact for production, manufacturing, and distribution, a disruption at any one of these locations or to any trade lane could have cascading consequences. A quote from a Harvard Business School professor sums it up in one statement. Today's products may be designed in New York, tested in Taiwan, stored in Hong Kong, sent to China for assembly, then shipped back to New York for distribution. Any type of disruption in a multi-location supply chain can mean major delays for companies all over the world. So in a way, even though today's supply chains are more global, that very aspect makes them more fragile. To begin, I'd like to touch on some of the top supply chain disruptions we're seeing in 2018. I'm going to also take this one step further. In particular, I'm going to explain how to use trade data to minimize the impact of a disruption, or to better predict how supply chains could be impacted should a disruption occur based on previous patterns. The top disruptors for 2018 can generally be placed into two categories: natural disasters and man-made disruptions. So let's start with natural disasters first and provide some statistics that show the impact that natural disasters can have on businesses and their supply chains. Looking at studies from ARC Advisory Group, Gartner, and PricewaterhouseCoopers, it's clear that disasters can have a severe impact on the bottom line, especially to those that do not have a contingency plan. These are some pretty amazing statistics, and you can see here that natural disasters can be a major point of supply chain breakdown, or in many cases, lead to complete insolvency. In addition, the statistics show just how common natural disasters are and how likely they are to occur at some point. Yes, this could happen to any one of us. Before we get to 2018, let's take a quick look at what we have seen historically in regard to supply chains and natural disasters. Arguably one of the more substantial recent natural disasters in the U.S. was Hurricane Harvey that made landfall in Texas on August 25, 2017. Following Hurricane Harvey, operations at the ports of Houston, Galveston, and Corpus Christi were severely disrupted while Port Arthur was completely underwater. Here we take a look at the impact of Hurricane Harvey on the Port of Houston because it's one of the country's most prominent freight hubs, particularly for van and reefer segments. In this slide, you can see that in August 2017, there was a precipitous drop in import value. The drop persisted into September, only rebounding in October according to our data. You'll also see how there was a substantial rise in imports in October as well. We have seen this common pattern before in our data, and will also come up later in this presentation. While it's easy to analyze the impact of a natural disaster on a supply chain, what's not so easy to gauge is what to do about it. Here's where actionable intelligence comes in. Following Hurricane Harvey, we know that the freight needed to go somewhere, and this map shows what we found. As a result of Harvey, port freight was rerouted to major Southern California ports, such as the Port of Long Beach and ports along the East Coast. For retailers, manufacturers, and distributors, this meant that their product was in another location, which meant it was not immediately available for sales, which meant added cost and delay. The key learning here is that should a similar scenario arise, in the future, having this knowledge from a trade data solution can help add solid, non-anecdotal knowledge as to where freight might go based on what happened historically. Businesses can then make other decisions based on this information and better understand their supply chains and manage the associated risk. For example, with Hurricane Michael that recently hit Florida, businesses could take a look at port shifts following a similar event. And I apologize, I appear to be having some problems with the slides here that are changing a little bit, so I'm trying to keep us on the proper slide as we move along here. In 2018, there have also been a number of natural disasters that have occurred worldwide. Each has had or is still having an impact on trade lanes, ports, supply chains, and the bottom line of many businesses. So here I'd like to focus on just one of the above natural disasters that we've seen in 2018 to date. Then take a look at a real-world scenario that highlights how natural disasters are impacting global supply chains and how an empirical, data-driven solution can drive actionable intelligence. I've highlighted the drought in Madagascar as the launching point for our analysis. I'm focusing on the case of the drought in Madagascar for a number of reasons that make it an interesting case. Firstly, Madagascar is a country whose GDP is primarily driven by one commodity, vanilla. Secondly, this commodity is substantially impacted by one primary natural disaster, in this case a protracted drought. And finally, Madagascar is the #1 producer of this particular commodity worldwide. As you can see here, vanilla represents 19% of the total exports from Madagascar by value. For a bit of background, prior to the drought, the island was hit by a cyclone back in March of 2017. The winds destroyed many of the vanilla orchids which produced the seed pods. Then a major drought set in. All of these factors have pushed the price of the crop up higher than the price of silver. So let's take a look at how this natural disaster is impacting a typical U.S. manufacturer and how trade data can help solve the supply chain disruption with actionable intelligence. Here we have a real-world U.S.-based natural ice cream manufacturer. This is a mid to large size operation with a large number of employees. Consumer trends were driving up the sales of natural foods, including natural vanilla ice cream. But in 2018, the company saw a 600% price increase for natural vanilla from its overseas supplier. It was becoming impractical to manufacture its most popular flavor at a price point that consumers would be willing to pay. So the key question here is, how can this company reduce risk, recoup sales, and go into a negotiation with a new supplier armed with data? Our ice cream manufacturer took a look at the import and export data to see if they could pinpoint alternative locations for supplying natural vanilla. Here, by looking at a 3-year trend of vanilla export volumes, you can see that Indonesia has become an emerging location for supplying this product. But that knowledge alone won't help our ice cream maker. They also needed additional information to help them make some decisions. They need to be able to identify specific companies that are actually producing and shipping vanilla out of these emerging supplier countries, so they could undertake the necessary due diligence needed to vet these organizations as potential suppliers. So we need to vet and verify. What does that mean? Find out if they are actually shipping what they say they're shipping. Do they specialize in the export of vanilla, or do they primarily export handbags or some other unrelated product? And drill down even further. Where are their shipments of vanilla beans going? Who's buying them, in what quantity, and in what industry? During what time frame even? And are there seasonal ups and downs? All of this is one part of a larger supplier vetting equation. This verification can also help manufacturers, importers, or any other company go into a discussion armed with information. Again, it all starts with accurate and up-to-date trade data. So now let's take a look at man-made disruptions. Of course, Mother Nature doesn't account for all disruptions. They also can be man-made, such as cyber attacks, piracy, utility failures, product defects, port strikes, trade policy changes, or even competitive disruptions. Recent examples of product defects or problems include a popular cell phone battery recall, a high-profile data breach, huge tariff fluctuations, and more. On October 1st, there was a strike at the Los Angeles area ports. You may also recall the historic port strike of 2015 that crippled the West Coast ports. As you can see from the graph, the 2015 strike resulted in more than $5 billion of lost import value. Exports were also impacted, amounting to a $2 billion initial loss, with the hardest hit industry being U.S. agriculture. If previous data from 2015 can shed light on trends, it could be a big factor in what to expect from the 2018 strike. A look at trade data can reveal what to expect and the degree that the strike could disrupt supply chains. From 2015, you can see that although there was a huge dip in import value, there was also a quick rebound. As far as trade policy changes, while there has been much focus on tariff changes in the news recently, trade policy is not just tariffs. It also includes a variety of non-tariff measures, including sanctions, anti-dumping and countervailing duties, and more. As you can see, these measures have significantly increased over the last few years. We'll take a deeper look at tariffs since this is the top of mind for many businesses in today's trade climate. There's a lot of information in this chart that underscores the noise we've been hearing in news regards to tariffs. Also, this slide is titled Select Trade Policy Changes. It does not list all of the various tariff announcements, counter announcements, exceptions, and measures such as anti-dumping or countervailing duties as previously mentioned. As you look at the chart, you can see two dates in particular that are highlighted due to their potential significant impact on international trade. On September 24th, the U.S. assessed an additional 10% tariff on $267 billion of imported Chinese goods. These same goods are slated to ratchet up to a 25% tariff on January 21st. This does not leave a lot of time for businesses to alter their supply chains if their products are impacted. Also, most of the previous rounds of tariffs focused almost exclusively on industrial equipment and machinery, which would have a significant impact on businesses. However, this new round of tariffs includes items like hats, TVs, and food. This has many consumers concerned, of course, and many importers rushing for new sources of supply. Although 300 product lines such as smartwatches, Bluetooth devices, bike helmets, plastic gloves, and high chairs were eventually pulled off the final tariff list, a broad range of products, such as the example shown here, still face tariffs. Here I'd like to look at just one of the above categories, vehicle parts. So many products under Vehicle Parts HS code 8708 are being impacted by U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods. This chart provides a guideline of where products in this category are originating. Let's say you are currently importing an impacted product from China. You have a stable supplier and the quality has been good. However, you know these products will be hit with a 25% tariff rate on January 1st. You performed a cost analysis and importing from China no longer makes financial sense. Therefore, you need to make a move now to prevent significant degradation of your margins. Well, it's clear that a large number of these goods also originate from Mexico, and Mexico may be geographically closer to your assembly plant in the U.S., a business can't just select a production location due to volume only. You need to know more. Perhaps the right supplier for you is in Japan or South Korea. In order to arm yourself with information, you'll need trade data as part of your larger decision-making process. The additional strategies and information you will need to employ to properly diversify your supply chain include verify and vet suppliers and logistics companies with actual shipment information. Understand what the duty and tariff costs will be when sourcing from different parts of the world, including the impact of trade agreements, and explore and understand your potential new suppliers' trading networks, including their customers, suppliers, and volumes. From natural disasters to man-made disruptions, trade data can minimize the impact of supply chain risk. We have the most accurate, up-to-date cross-border trade data that can help you with these challenges, and our information is presented in an easy-to-use format that makes sense and will help you quickly get to the information you need to make informed strategic decisions. Now I would like to pass the discussion over to my colleague, Enrique Broom, our VP of North American Sales, and he will walk you through a demonstration of some of our tools that will show how you can minimize risk at a practical level with our technology. And remember, you can use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen to submit questions at any time, which we will touch on after Enrique is done with the demo. So, Enrique, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much. Okay, so the idea is all what we have, Mark has been presenting in terms of the Manila, the Port of Houston. I would like to illustrate what information you can get from data mine content. So I will try to keep it very, very simple. The idea is, first of all, we have agreements with more than 50 countries where we have been going to make it very explicit. We go to each different country, we talk with customs, we make an agreement, and they give us all the import and export data related to the world from each country. We have an agreement, for example, with CBP, with Customs Border Protection, that they give us the 100% of all the bill of ladings coming into the U.S., so where you can see any kind of product, any kind of consignee, supplier, and all this information. So by clicking the login and the password, what you are going to see is the different topics. We have not only import-export trade data, but we also have, as Mark was mentioning, custom info, where we relate all the duties and the taxes, and also the MK data, that is the denied party to see with whom you can make business or not. So going into the queries and rankings, you can choose any country that you are looking for some data to find other suppliers, competitors, or any kind of information, where you can see United States, and these are all the different countries that we have agreements with each different customs. Let's see, for example, US. I can go into import-export data, and clicking into import, I can start by rankings or queries. In rankings is more what we call a big picture, more for the VP supply chain or marketing, when they want really to see, for example, a ranked by VOCC, or we were talking about the different kind of ports coming, U.S. ports or U.S. regions, because also, as Mark was pointing, for example, West Coast, there's a problem with the West Coast, so you can do it by region or by port itself. And here the typical thing, it will be ranked by TEUs, the total amount of TEUs that each port made. The beauty here is that in any moment you can build a graph, you can put it into Excel, you can print it, and also you can drag and drop years to years. So the typical, when we were talking about the strikes of the different ports or the different problems or hurricanes or whatever, you can see exactly what happened between each port. So between 2018 and 2017, you can see the growth or any kind of information related to each port, what is happening. Because remember that in any moment I can click here and then I can go into queries to see bill by bill. But if not, in any moment you can see, as we were talking about the Port of Houston, I can click into the Port of Houston and I can track any of this information. What are the VOCCs into the Port of Houston, the carriers, the NVOCC, what are all the customers, the consignees that they are working with that port, in what state they are located, city and zip code, because sometimes it's interesting not only to see the Port of Houston, if not the final destination, and where is that importer located. So sometimes they want to rank it for their own, the supply chain for the sales reps, and see if they have a state or a city, a zip code that they can manage by that way, by the shipper, by the suppliers, any HS code related, or anything that is inside the bill of lading or added value that we give, no reefer, no reefer, any kind of product. And then also coming back into queries, going into queries is what we say, bill by bill, tell me all the life about that company or what is each different company doing. So going into queries, I can tell you, for example, that till now, because we update it daily, we have 9 million of bill of ladings coming in 2019 into the US. In this case, the typical thing, we have a very easy drag and drop option like a Google search where you can search by the entire BL, by consignee, by whatever you really want. And then we built a dashboard here where you can track and prepare your own dashboard by consignee, by shipper, or by country of origin, or by you build your own dashboard itself. So in this case, you can build your dashboard and say, oh, I want to see also LCL, FCL, or I want to see VOCCs, whatever you really want, you build your own dashboard. And then we have also an advanced queries where you can search by any kind of topic, consignee, notified. And for example, let's go as a sample and say, okay, we were talking about, or Mark was talking about vanilla. So I can type vanilla. I don't know nothing about vanilla HS code or what is the code related. So I have all the information of the harmonized system tariff. So you can build it. You don't have to be an expert. So here I can click that vanilla is the 0905. I add it. And now from the 9 million of bill of ladings, I go into just vanilla. From 9 million into 192 different shipments, where I can track very easily who are all the importers, what are all the importers of vanilla, who are all the shippers, and what are all the countries that they are buying. As Mark was also pointing, in the past, Madagascar now it can, but India is growing a lot. So in any moment, I can compare, for example, by any year. As we have a story of 10 years of data, I can click any year back and say, okay, we have India, Madagascar, Indonesia, and Germany. What about last year? So I can go 1 year back or any kind of year. And in this case, it proves that in the past, China was very strong. But now with the change of duties and whatever, it came back. So nowadays, it's not so powerful like it was in the past. And at the same time, you see all the rest of the countries that they are dealing, no? So coming back into 2018, again, just to share with you, we have updated this data till the 24th of October, so it's very good updated. And then in any moment, I can give a click and share with you the photocopy of each different bill of lading. All what you see in blue is the information that customs give us, and all what is in green is added value that all our 2,000 customers has been asking in the past. I want to do by region, I want to do by world region departure, I want to have a calculate value. So mostly of these are ideas that mostly of the customers has been asking in the past. So let me put it a little bit bigger here to share with you all the information. No? So here you have the calculate value. You can see, for example, the country of origin, because it comes with port of departure and arrival. But what we do is we found the country of origin by the address of the shipper itself. We have made an agreement with Dun & Bradstreet where we unified the names, because as you all know, the bill of lading is a description, the consignee and the shipper declare. So it's intercruises, short, ink, comma, whatever. But by the address and the zip code, we unify those names and we put it just in summarizing to one. So even though Sony Electronics is written 100 times differently, for us by the address and the zip code and the state, Sony Electronics Inc. and Sony Electronics, LLC, is the same. So we summarize, so you can have it just in one when you bring it into Excel. It tells you the notified, if it's reefer or not reefer, the descriptions, the HS code related, and also the market numbers related in each one of them. So that is important. So I wanted to be clear in that. And then what it happened here is that in any moment, having this bill of lading, what you can do is, I want to summarize and have my graph related. So we try to add what we call the rankings into the queries itself, and you can prepare all your own graph as you wish. And even though, as I was talking about on the left side, when we were talking about the dashboard, and you can prepare your dashboard, you can prepare and build your own graphs, whatever you want. I don't care to see LCL, so I want to replace it by the port of departure. So you can build your own graph, you just save it, and then you have your own graph, so then you can bring it into Excel or PDF or print it and have the graphs that you want to choose. You can see trends, the last 5 years of each country, and finally you can see the totals by. I want to see all the players that I am competing in vanilla, if you are talking about vanilla or talking about any kind of product. So then I can bring you ranked all the different importers that they are competing, or at the same time I can do the same in terms of the suppliers, no? What are all the suppliers? So maybe when I fly into India or into Madagascar or whatever, I can have other suppliers that other competitors are buying. So then when you have all this information, what you can do is really track and see if that company or the company itself or your competitor, for example, let's say Lotus Food, tell me the story about that company or that supplier. No? Now I am by consignee, but you can do it by supplier. So in this case, what I will see is all the life about Lotus Food. The name of the company, the address, the phone number, who is the contact name, the volume that they are working, all information that we grab with the partnership of Dun & Bradstreet. And then with our information, we build all the graphs. So then when you talk with this company and they tell you, yeah, I'm moving 1,000 of TUs. No, you are moving 501. That's it. So you can track and control by supplier, by importer, whatever you want, all the different shippers that he's working with, all the different products, so it could give you an idea that he's not only working with vanilla, but he's also working with rice, pasta, bread, or whatever. And then, what are the carriers that he's working? And also, in here, you can see the country of origins that he worked and the port of arrivals that he's using. So finally, to analyze totally this company, not only all his life, but also we can click in what we call spidering. And in the spidering side, I am going to check and see how he's working, with who's working, what are all the suppliers. And then if I click into their suppliers, I can see if that suppliers with what are the importers that they are working. So in the case that you are working with them, you can see if your supplier is working only with you or is working with other suppliers when they told you that they have exclusive or any kind of thing. No? So in this case, again, in any moment, you can have all this information. And when you are ready or you want to see, for example, vanilla, just summarize with all the buyers' information together, you can put it this way. Or you can click into suppliers and have all the suppliers so as to build your trip into that country and have all the information about them. And in any moment, what you are going to do is after you have this information, you finalize this information, you click into Excel, and from the 100% of the fields that custom give us, plus the added value that you see in green, you bring it into Excel and you work it with pivot tables or you do whatever you want. Also, in this, in any moment you can save alerts. Okay, I am working with this, but I want to control my supplier. So now I have vanilla and this supplier, this is my customer, but I want to create an alert that every single time he's not working with me and he's working with other ones, send me an email. So you can really prepare an alert. You don't have to be connected. And in any moment that supplier working with you or a consignee or I want to track a competitor every time he brings a product, you can set up alerts and I will send you an email with the solution so you don't have to be getting into the system and I refresh the alerts for you guys. Finally, in one more second, the other thing that we have been working a lot and we have a great success is what we call the new Descartes lead generator product, that it has all the same information but just in a dashboard. Tomorrow you want to see import or exports, you just click here. You want to see any kind of company, you can see any city, state, zip code, carrier, anything of the information just in a dashboard. So then you can track any kind of company, any kind of country, whatever you really want, just in one screen so as to make decisions. And if you are looking for leads in the future and you say, okay, I am in the state of Florida and I want to find companies to go over, I can click Florida and it will change the dashboard in a second and it will bring me, now I am only in Florida. These are all the importers, all the suppliers, all the countries that the Florida companies are working. And finally, I can go down and I can bring into Excel in a second all the companies that you can contact them right away with their phone number, their contact name, the amount of TEUs they are working, or if not, in terms of suppliers. In terms of suppliers, I can just click here, the foreign company, and do exactly the same with the foreign company related. So that is mostly just a quick snapshot of what we have and how we can help you with this trade data to have better solutions in the supply chain business. No? Thank you, Mark.
All right. Thank you, Enrique, for that. We will now take a look at some of the questions that have been submitted. And once again, you can submit a question at any time by the little Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So if you have any questions, please do submit them. All right. The first one, is there a way I can be notified or be alerted of new shipments in the DataMine solution? Yes, certainly. And Enrique touched on it a little bit where he mentioned you could set up alerts that can send you information. But within the system, you can save any search you create and then set up an alert that will notify you via email of any shipments that have arrived based on the criteria in your saved search. And you can also select different time intervals of how often you want to receive those emails, and they can either come as a notification or you can set it up where it will include an Excel spreadsheet that actually lists the shipments in detail that met the criteria of your saved search. Okay, let's see. I'm actually looking not to reduce risk, but to locate new markets. Can I use one of your solutions to find emerging markets? And I can take that one as well. Sure you can, certainly. That's a very common use case for our tools. As you saw with our vanilla example, you can define searches in many different ways. You can define them by keywords or companies or HS codes or geographies or any combination, and then visualize those trends. in global flows of the products within the interface to understand where growth patterns are emerging in the products you're interested in, or the companies you're interested in, or trade lanes you are interested in, depending on what type of services you provide or what type of products you provide. Okay, next question. I really just need a quick high-level look at a supplier's overall profile. Do you have this sort of functionality? And we do have that, and Enrique also touched on that within our what we call our trade profiles that we create. In conjunction with Dun & Bradstreet, we normalize and unify company names and provide a profile with deep firmographic data that includes sales volume, name and address, contact information, phone numbers, number of employees, SIC and NAICS codes, import trends, and then a number of details surrounding those regarding their shipments, and that would be the top carriers they're dealing with, top products, top countries of origin, and more details. And that's a nice detailed look at any of the companies that we, or most of the companies that we have within our interface. Yeah, there, Enrique's kind of scrolling through the detail that we have where we have a trade profile created. Okay, next question. During the web seminar, you were looking at data for a particular port, the Port of Houston. Could I also look at data for a particular district? Yes, you can. We have different data sets. We were focused mostly on the customs data set, which is very detailed and has rich shipment detail, including the consignee and shipper, along with product and volume information. But you can also take a step back and look at what we call our census data, and we have that in two different data sets, which is both at the port level and at the district level. And you can slice and dice that information any number of ways, and you can look at that just based on what type of detail you'd like. And Enrique's showing us there the different options we have for data sets within U.S. data. And you can see the import and export district data and the import and export port data for census. Okay, next question. My company is an NVOCC that imports a large volume of car parts. Can your software show me which other NVOCCs and carriers are also helping to import these products? Most definitely. That is a very popular use case for our subscribers, where they will be very interested in, if they're a logistics service provider, they'll want to see what other NVOCCs or carriers might be moving products within certain trade lanes. And you can do that type of search within HS codes or within keywords. So we are very capable of doing that and have very powerful tools to allow you to do that as well. Next question. How soon would the Descartes data mine solution populate with maritime bill of lading data? So that's a little different for each of our data sets, but our U.S. import data we publish the day after we receive it. So it's out there very quickly, and that's with our added value fields that Enrique showed when he showed you the bill of lading details. So we get all of that processing done within a day, and it's populated the day after. As you can see, what he's highlighting right there, the database is current through October 24th. So you get your hands on the data very quickly. Okay, let's see. Got a couple more questions here, and then we'll wrap it up if nothing else comes in. One of them is I would like to have a one-on-one demo of the product. How could I sign up for a demo? So there's a number of ways. You can go directly to our datamine.com website, and there's a short form you can fill out on the website that will be distributed to one of our data specialists that specialize in the industry you work in. So that's probably the best route, but we'll also be distributing the slides and other information from this. There, Enrique, showing on the screen here, we've got a request demo button. You can just click on that and fill that form out, and somebody will get back to you very quickly. Can your solution help me quickly rank the imports of 1 year versus another year? Is there a way I can quickly make that comparison? Yes. So that is something you can do within our rankings tool. That's a very powerful tool. I think we may have shown that at the beginning of the demo where we were comparing port volumes year over year and the volume changes that took place. So as we're showing right here, you can see here a comparison of NVOCCs and the amount of shipments or TEUs that they have year over year comparison.
Yeah, and adding into that, sorry, Mark, to turn up, but
yeah,
adding into that, very interesting because, for example, we have most of the NVOCCs and carriers working with us as a customer, and sometimes when they compare, they say, well, Blue Anchor, that is Cook and Nagel, Expeditors, and they say, okay, I grew between 2018 and 17 in a 4%. But what we usually show them is, I don't know if you really grow or not, because the total amount of imports maybe was more than a 4%. So the general imports in U.S. in total, it grew at 10% from last year. So really, even though you grow up at 4%, you are down like in a 6%. OEC, Oriental Express, has grown really at 23%, so he's up. But in your case, even though you grow up at 4%, because the 10% was the total, you are down this year related to last year. That's the point, no, of this.
Excellent. Yep. Good point. Good point. Thank you. Okay, the next question. Do you have anti-dumping and countervailing duty updates by HS codes and description? We do have that information. We did not demonstrate that today in the Datamine product, but we have that very information in our Customs Info reference product. That's part of our Global Trade Content suite of products. And that's something you can search on by either HS code or description. We'll give you that exact information within days after that is published. And let's see, it looks like we just have one more question, and that is, can we import data into our system via API? Yes, you can. You have a number of ways you can access the information within our system. You can do it, of course, via the online interface that Enrique was demonstrating. In addition, you can pull and do various queries via API, and then we also have FTP options for you as well. And one additional tool we have that was touched on too is our Market Insights product, of which we showed you the lead generation dashboard. And that's a tool that is a very powerful visualization that allows you to see the data and insights at a high level. So many different ways you can pull the information from our system based on whatever your needs are. And I think that has covered all of our questions. So once again, I'd like to let everybody know that we will be sending out a link with a recording and also with a copy of the slides that were shown at the beginning of the presentation. If you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to us, and we appreciate you taking the time to see what we have to offer here today. Thanks, everyone, and have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.